Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to talk about math virtual manipulatives in just a moment. We're waiting for a few more people to join us. So please feel free to take this moment to unmute yourself and say hello. This is going to be an interactive session. So I hope you've brought your thinking caps. We're going to work through some scenarios. We'll get started in just a moment. Does anyone want to say hi while we wait? Hi, David.
Hello.
How's it going?
Very good. Thank you. Beautiful day today.
It is gorgeous. Whereabouts are you? Philadelphia?
Yeah, in Philadelphia. Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
Yep.
great, great. Good to hear from you. I look forward to working with you.
Yes, you
Hi,
have.
Amy. I'm sorry. Go ahead, David. What were you saying?
That's not important.
Okay. Hi, Amy. How are you? Looks like Amy's still working on her technology. How about you, John? How are you today?
All right, I'm good. I'm
Good to
good,
hear
thank
from
you.
you. Great. Good to hear from you. So we'll be using a few websites today. So it might be beneficial to have your to be on your computer instead of a cell phone. All right, we've got a few more people joining. Hi, Amber. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. I look forward to hearing your feedback today. We're going to get started in just a minute. We're waiting for a few more people. Amy, how are you doing there? You have to hit the unmute button. You are on mute. I can't hear you.
Hi, thank you so much. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Can you see me?
I can see you. Also, awesome.
Okay, great. Thank you for the workshop. I'm having tech problems. I'm an adult math learner as well as a math teacher, not very good at tech. So I will ask you if you can give the web address of websites because I'm on my phone, but I'll type them into my computer and try to follow
Sure.
along that way.
Sure. All right.
Thank
We'll
you.
do the best we can.
Thank you.
So no problem. So let me introduce myself and give you a little bit of background from me. My name is Maribel Ojeda, and I am a professional development consultant, but primarily I'm an instructor. I'm a teacher. I started my career as a middle school teacher, and math and science were my subjects. Then I moved into adult literacy, adult education, doing GED prep and family literacy programs and professional development for teachers. So I like to do really, really simple activities that get us into the strategies. So uh, let's get a little bit about you all. I'll start at the top. Tell me a little bit about how long you've been teaching, your experience. Let's start with David.
Well, I started teaching in 1967,
Wonderful.
and and so I've been doing it as a volunteer for something like 7 years, 5 years, and with different agencies in Philadelphia, both one-on-one and in group. So that's it.
Great, great. Amy, tell us a little bit about your teaching experience.
Sure. Well, I have a BA in English and a lot of teaching credits, but I worked on Wall Street as a financial writer, editor, and ghostwriter. I was secretly enumerate. I worked like 100 hours a week of secret overtime for years.
Oh, wow.
Once I learned math, I ended up writing myself a math book and learning from that book. Then I started leading math programs and tutoring individually. I led teams that developed trauma-informed math education, and I'm hoping to publish it. Publish the draft textbook that my programs use. But it seems to help a lot of people learn fast by using manipulatives. So I'm so grateful you're going over this today. Now I've known math about 15 or 20 years, and I'm almost 70 years old.
Oh, that's very exciting, Amy. I do a lot of equity and trauma informed practice work. So hang on at the end and we'll exchange information.
Beautiful.
Wonderful. Oh, I'm so excited you're here.
Thank you.
Amber, why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, so I've been teaching adult ed for almost 9 years. I had about 4 years of experience teaching in the K-12 world before that. And I primarily teach math now, but I was teaching all subjects when I first started.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Wonderful. And John, tell us a little bit about your experience.
I've been teaching in adult ed for 30 years.
Oh, wonderful. What agency are you working with?
And now I work in West Virginia,
Okay.
adult education. Actually, we work with a program for TANF recipients.
Oh, that's great. Great. It sounds like all of us have a wide variety of experiences. And I look forward to hearing a little bit more about each of you as we go through today's activities. So today, our objective really is to get some experience with online math manipulatives. Now with COVID and all of the things that students have to deal with, we really need to work on our skills as practitioners, right? To ensure that we have the skills and activities down so that they can use the math manipulatives online. So I want to start with a little bit of research that's shown that using manipulatives in class can have an incredible impact on student learning outcomes. By engaging in these hands-on activities and by using visual and tactile representation of abstract concepts, manipulatives can really help students develop a stronger foundation in math and improve their overall mathematical proficiency. So let's talk a little bit about purpose. Before I go through that, I do have a Menti activity. If you have a cell phone or a device, what you would do is take your phone and point it to your computer screen like so with your camera open and access the poll. For those of you who do not have your phone available, I will put the email, the content in the chat box. If you give me one moment, you will go to menti.com. Oh, thank you, Amber. Menti.com, and you can put in the code 99772589. And what should pop up is, why do we use manipulatives? Why do we use manipulatives? I will show you on the screen some of the answers that are popping up. To show thinking, to visualize math, differentiation, to help students better understand math concepts. All of these are really great reasons to use math manipulatives. It helps with thinking, right? When you use a math manipulative or something where students can put their hands on it, it really does help students to focus on the concept at hand. Visualizing math. This is such a great way to bring concept from abstract to concrete. Differentiation, absolutely. If you, like many of us, we teach multi-level students, sometimes at the same time, sometimes at different times. And it's important to have opportunities for students that are struggling or are super advanced to use math in different and new ways. And I want to be very clear that differentiation does not necessarily mean help the students that are struggling. It means to help people in different ways. To help better understand math concepts, absolutely. And then kinesthetic response to content. For those of you who are familiar with the term total physical response, that physical activity, that physical engagement with the material is such a powerful way for students to engage in concepts and to model. Oh, there's somebody just wrote to teach depth of the standards by modeling math. Yes, absolutely. And for those of you who are familiar with the standards, the college and career readiness standards, or the Common Core state standards, math standards require us to engage students in activities that helps them model. And so by modeling, I mean bringing language to math and bringing math to our everyday life, right? To bring words and concepts together with math and symbols. And so thank you for everyone who participated in that poll. I'm going to pull that aside for now. That's exactly right. If you take a moment to read what's on the screen, the purpose is to help students develop an understanding of concept, to build problem-solving skills, and to improve their reasoning skills. Such an important thing is to get students to reason through problems. Using manipulatives provides a hands-on and concrete way for students to explore and understand mathematical concepts. And they are usually physical objects students can touch, move, and manipulate to understand and visualize an abstract concept. So you can use manipulatives to teach a wide range of mathematical concepts, including counting, addition, subtraction, and they can include things like blocks and cubes and counters, things that generally you would see in a classroom. But now we've brought them to the internet. And so that's really exciting for those of us who started out teaching in the classroom and are now teaching in a virtual environment. Let's talk a little bit about criteria. Go ahead and click that to scan that link again, or scan that QR code one more time. And you should have another question.
Maribel, it says to wait for the presenter to show the next slide.
Oh, okay, let's see. All right, you should be able to see it now. Try again. Okay. Oops. And I'm not sure why it's not working. That's okay. How about this? How about we talk about what the criteria is? How do you select virtual manipulatives? How do you select them? Or what criteria might you use?
Maribel, when you talk about a virtual manipulative, do you mean something that a person would manipulate on their screen?
Yes, absolutely. So what might be, if thinking about it in those terms, what might be some things you consider when thinking about an online activity?
Ease of use.
Ease of use. It has to be easy to use, right? For both teacher and student. Maybe it's free. I like free. I'm going to show us all some free stuff. What else?
I like easy to access. Something
Yes.
like what you're doing with Menti right now, something I can show a link, or I can just put a link in the chat and they go straight to it. They don't have to log in. They don't have to get into the learning management system. All they have to do is click the link in the chat and then they're right where I need them to be.
That's right. That's right. Easy breezy, right? Something they can access. And for students who may have learning challenges or learning differences, giving more opportunity for them to manipulate math, if you will, and work through the activity is such a great opportunity. We want math to be accessible. Some things that we should consider are the learning objective. And I'm going to show you all of the samples in just a minute. Learning objectives. What are we teaching and how can we use a virtual manipulative, right? For example, if the objective is to teach fractions, we want the virtual manipulative to be capable of representing fractions. Ease of use, absolutely something Amber said earlier. The manipulative should be easy to use and intuitive. It should not be overly complicated or require extensive instructions. And we'll show you how to find some activities. And interactivity, right? It has to show, or it should give the students an opportunity to engage actively and manipulate and experiment with different scenarios. Also, feedback. We want students to have some feedback. The manipulative or the application or the website should provide some feedback to the students to help them understand, if I do this with the manipulative, how does it impact the overall problem? Accessibility. Again, you want stuff to be accessible to all students such that assistive technology can be used with the manipulatives. And compatibility. Many of our students are using cell phones to access math classes or to access tutoring. And we want to ensure that our students have access. So let's take a look at a few examples. Something, if you're a math teacher and you really want to get involved, please, and you're working with adult learners, please look up the Adult Numeracy Network. The Adult Numeracy Network has a ton of material that you can access for free. Well, you can access Adult Numeracy Network for free, and the resources there may or may not be free, but let's take a look at some free ones. On the screen now is a screenshot from Polypad. It's mathagon.org. I will send you the link in the chat. mathagon.org/polypad. And if you pull that up, you'll see a bunch of tools. So I'll pull that up here on my screen so you can see what it looks like. Mathagon. Oh, it looks like we lost someone. What happened? Did I? There you go. So here is Mathagon. If you click this icon here, it'll bring you to the home page. Amy's back. There's tons of resources. And what you do at this website is click on the activity you want to use, right? Let's click Polypad. Let's say I'm doing an activity with shapes. We want to do something with shapes. We can use this activity here to determine how many of these triangles fits here, right? So now we can talk about the addition of fractions. We can talk about what it looks like to make equivalent fractions. Here we have 3 of what would be 6 to make this shape, right? And so what this does is give students a very concrete way to say, oh, half can be represented by 3 over 6, right? So a really easy way for students to understand that. There are tons of other applications here. Let's look at fractions. We can work with fraction circles or pieces, right? And manipulate that. And you can have students compare them. You can have students compare them. Amy, I saw your question. I'm going to put it in the chat.
Thanks.
There you go. It's Mathagon. Thank you, Charles. So this activity or this resource has tons of materials, algebra tiles, right? And so how do we decide what to use? That's the point of my question. And you want to make sure that you have the right tool for the right student. And so today we're going to give you an opportunity to play around with Polypad in just a moment with some student scenarios. Next, we're going to take a look at this website, which is called mathlearningcenters.org. mathlearningcenters.org. And if you do /apps, like in the chat, you'll see this website. And again, we have a ton of resources, mathlearningcenter.org. Yep. We have tons of resources here. I love this number line activity. This website gives you a ton of information on what you could do, for example, with this number line. If you go back, you can go to the web one. And then I have these really easy to use tools. Let's say I want to ask students what the difference is between 3 and 8. They can go ahead and see that if I put 3 here and this is 8 there, that I will have 5. Oops, I'm sorry. It's supposed to say 5. 5, right? This is just a rudimentary activity that I can do with students so that they can visualize the difference, right? There's tons of options here and patterns and number racks, whiteboard applications. They have math vocabulary cards, money pieces. Everybody likes to talk about money because it rules the world. And we can talk to people about the difference, right? So here's $1 and here's a 50-cent piece. And oh, look, it covers half. And we can really make math concepts come to life for students in this way. 10 is 1/10 of 100, or 10 cents, or a dime. And so when you use virtual manipulatives, students get a really concrete understanding of these concepts. Let's do one more website. PHET, PHET .colorado.edu. I'm going to put that also in the chat. That is another website you can use. You click on math and there's tons of simulations where you can do all kinds of activity. This is a ratio and proportion game. And this resource tells us exactly what we could use this for. Here's some sample learning goals. Here's the alignment to the Common Core. Of course, it's not the college and career readiness standards, but the college and career readiness standards are aligned to this Common Core standards. Here, I'll make that a little bit bigger. It tells you about the inclusive features that the students might need. It's a really great tool. And then they have teaching resources. For example, a video on how to use the activity. So that's just kind of a brief overview of some of the options that we have for math concepts and math manipulatives that you can do right from your computer with a student. Go ahead and take your cell phone and scan this QR code again. We're going to do some activities together for Google Jamboard. If you've never heard of Jamboard, you will like it, I hope. Google Jamboard is kind of like a whiteboard that students could use, that you could use with students. Ours looks like this. And you'll see that, has everyone gotten to the Jamboard? I'll put the link in the chat. I'll put that right there. All right, click that. Oh, I see one person has come in. Nuruti Sai, have you been able to access the material? You're on mute. Nope. Thanks, Amber.
Yeah, I couldn't get the link up on my phone. So
Oh, okay.
put the QR code up again, please.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Thanks.
There you go. Oops. John, were you able to access the link? The Jamboard?
Yes.
And David?
No,
Okay. Were you able to click the link in the chat?
I think you better just not worry about me. I'm kind of slow with this stuff.
That's okay. I'll wait for you. So if at the bottom of your screen, you should have a button that says chat. And if you pull that up, it has the link is the most recent link that's at the bottom of that chat.
Right. So where does that go?
If you go ahead and click it, it should look like a white screen that says Google Jamboard.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. All right. At the top of the screen, there's a scenario. Maria is an ABE student, that's adult basic ed, who is struggling with understanding fractions. Her teacher has asked her to use virtual manipulatives to help her visualize fractions better. Maria is given the task to represent 2/3. Let's see which manipulative would be best for Maria. So out of the websites that we looked at, I might say Mathagon Polypad is a good one for Maria because they have fractions. And so it says she has to represent 2/3. Let's take a look at our fraction options here. So what I would do is open up this link. This is a second link. It should open up in a new window. And I can say, oh, Maria, let's use these fraction bars to represent 2/3. Here's a fraction bar. And we want to, oops, it's really large. Apologies. And I could say, okay, let's color in 2/3. This is 1 and this is 2. And we could see if Maria realizes that 2 of the 3 is represented here. So that's how I would use this with Maria. And so I'll go back to the scenario. Which virtual manipulative would be the best for Maria? I think the fraction bars. So here on the Jamboard, I'm going to use a sticky note that says mathagon/mathagon.org/polypad is the best for fractions. And then it shows up here on my whiteboard. What I could do also is take a screenshot of what the student did, which I use my little, oops, I'm sorry. I'll use my snipping tool. Where's my snipping tool? I apologize. Well, I would take a screenshot of this and put it onto here. I can export it as a picture and then upload it to this upload from my and so from my sample, I can say Maria knows what 2/3 is because she was able to do this with the fraction site or the Mathagon site. This becomes a really good tool for you to say, yes, Maria knows what 2/3 is, or no, she doesn't. This right here is your toolbar for students that are working online. And so it becomes difficult sometimes to manage students and their access to the internet. But if you give them a little bit of time to play with Mathagon, they will have a ton of applications here. Here's the fraction circles. We could also have Maria do 2/3 like this. Ooh, I'm going to rotate that so that it's like that. So you'll want to make sure that the student knows how to manipulate it, but it's a great opportunity for students to gain conceptual understanding of what 2/3 actually means. So I'm going to put that aside for a moment. Up here at the top, I'm going to click next frame. Here is another scenario. And I want you to use Polypad, the Mathagon website, to find a tool that would work best for Sarah. Sarah is a HSE, high school equivalency student. who is having difficulty understanding the concept of division. Her teacher has asked her to use virtual manipulatives to better help her visualize the concept. Sarah is given the task, divide 12 by 3. Let's look at Polypad. I'm going to go back to the beginning. Oop, where's the Polypad? Hold on 1 second while I pull that up. And as you can see, there's plenty of things here. So plenty of activities. Where's the, okay. So division. This student is working on division and they have to divide 12 by 3. What might be helpful here? I want you to take some time on your screen to play around here. What might be a good tool? Go ahead and click through. And let me know. What do you think? What do you think? I'm going to put in the chat also a user guide for you to use when you're ready. There are some short video tutorials. Here, for division, let's see. I might use, what might I use? I could divide something using those fraction bars, right? Let's do percent, do this, none. Oop, there's the fraction bar. So here is fractions, right? I can divide this, let me move this thing. Come on. I can divide this 12 into 3 and have the student say, oh, well, I know that if I divide this into 3, I have a group of 4 here, a group of 4 here, and a group of 4 there. And so I can visually see that the student can can divide 12 by 3 groups, 1 here, here, and 1 here, and they're even. So again, this is a great tool to use with students that are struggling with concepts. Let's take a look at another example. There's a few here. Okay. John is an ABE student who is having trouble with understanding decimals. He has to compare decimals of 0.42 and 0.051 using virtual manipulatives. What might be the best tool for him? Let's take a look at this website, right? There's plenty of charts and things that we can use in order to engage that student in a study of decimals. What if we use this, right? We can use this tool right here, and the student can count 42 versus 0.5. We'll round it up. Oops, sorry. So we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So here's 10, here's 20, here's 30, Here's 40 all the way to 42, right? 42 might look like this. And so now the student has an understanding of this number below 0. And then to compare it with 0.05, I can do that up here. And say, well, what does 0.05 look like? Here's 0.05. Now the student can compare those two things, right? This is Toy Theater. I'll put in the chat here. So we've looked at this grid. We've looked at the fractions. We've looked at, we can look at probability. Let's clear this. Where's the clear button? Erase. Erase. So again, very easy to use. Let's look at the probability one. Terry is a pre-HSE or a pre-high school equivalency student who is struggling with understanding the concepts of probability. Their teacher has asked them to use virtual manipulatives. Terry is given a task to simulate rolling a pair of dice 100 times and calculate the probability of rolling a sum of 7 or 11. So let's take a look. Coins, dice, and spinners. We can roll right here without having the student take out some dice. We can also move this. We can make a chart. We can do a scatter plot. We can do all kinds of things with that feature. So, what questions do you have about virtual manipulatives? What questions do you have about this? I know it's a lot of material all at once. I showed you quite a few options. What thoughts do you have about the virtual manipulatives?
Am I muted?
Yes, Amy, I can hear you. And yes, David, I can hear you also.
David, go ahead.
So Maribel, would the idea be that people would be doing this on their phones while also looking at the Zoom screen
Yes.
on a computer?
Yes, they could do that. Or if they are tech savvy enough to use 2 different tabs on their computer, they could put the Zoom on one side and the internet on the other side and go back and forth. Right now, because I'm sharing my screen, you can see that what I'm doing on the back end, but I would also suggest that you stop your share so that students don't have to see my work and think it's theirs. They can go ahead and manipulate on their own. But sharing is also a really great way for them to see, even if they are not able to use the material themselves on their phone or their tablet.
But the student, I mean, if you were in a Zoom, the student could also share their screen, right?
Absolutely.
And then
Absolutely.
you could just watch, right?
Yes.
What they were doing, right?
Yep. Just like
Yeah.
you watched me, you could do the exact same thing with your student, is get them to share their screen.
Right.
Another
Now, I guess-
option. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Doug.
I guess where it's problematic though is that you can't actually rearrange things for them, can you? You just
Yes,
have to tell
actually.
them. You could?
Well,
I mean, if
yes, there is a button that it says remote control.
Oh, okay.
So if I stop sharing, I can at the bottom of my screen, because I'm a host, I get an option to remote control the other person's screen. So
Oh,
what
right, okay. Yeah, all right, yes, right, okay.
so it works out really well so that you can correct and provide feedback to that student.
Right.
Great points, John. Thank you. Amy, you had a question or a comment.
Yeah, I have two. The first one is I wonder if students have printers or usually they don't have printers.
It depends on where you're working. If for those of you who are working in a virtual environment, you can ask them. I'm not sure that these are very printer friendly per se. It's meant to be done online so that students can get hands-on experience with these tools.
Okay. And then my second question is, I've independently invented the 10 by 10 grid for money, but theirs is improved because it has the little picture of the dime on it, the dollar. But in terms of fractions, I use circular foods and square or rectangular foods. And I wonder if any websites use that. I try to go for pleasant sense memories. And then for the number lines, I have horizontal and vertical illustrated number lines. So I wonder
Sure.
if anyone else is doing that.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I can give you sites for days
Great.
that have all kinds of adult numeracy activities. And I'll share with you the Adult Numeracy Network. This is their homepage. It's like $20 to join, and
Right.
you can access all their material. If you go to the practice section,
Mm-hmm.
they have right here teaching resources, instructional routines, paper-based manipulatives for those that are printing, virtual manipulatives, and they have all of these resources that we talked about. Polypad, Partial Product Finder. This is the Math Learning Center, which we talked about. You asked about fractions.
Yeah, fractions
Here's-
using food as the basis of the shape. You slice
Sure,
up a cake or a pizza.
sure, absolutely. This one will allow you to pick the number of slices
Oh,
of that.
beautiful.
I mean, if people really are stuck on the food part, you can say this is a pizza, this is a pie.
All right.
But it does just about the same thing that you want it to do. So I put 17 and now it has 17.
Wow.
Alternatively, you can use a rectangle. I'll move the circle over and do whatever number makes you happy.
And which
And-
website is this? This is Ann? A-N-N?
No, this is the Math Learning Center.
Okay. Thanks.
So again,
But-
today we talked about
But you can
Mathagon.
access all of those things through the Ann website.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how
Oh,
she was getting in,
beautiful.
right? Yeah,
Yes.
so it just makes it easy to have it all in one place.
Yep.
Beautiful.
And so exactly, Adult Numeracy Network. You go to Math and Numeracy resources, and here's some paper-based ones if you were interested in
Yeah.
something else. Another thing that I use is Blackline Masters. And
How do
I'll
you
put
spell
that, I'll put that in the chat for you.
Right. Okay, thanks.
This is the website. It's a complicated name, but this has tons and tons of activities. I apologize, my dog is barking. Tons and tons of things that you can get a Word file or a PDF. Where's my Word document? And so I just clicked on this chart and here it is. I can use it to develop my own activities or have students use for their own purposes. So lots of resources. Here's a calendar, here are clocks for individuals who are working on learning how to read a clock, decimal squares, dot papers, 10 frames, all kinds of things, eighths to twelfths, fraction pieces they can cut out. If you're a tutor, it's great to have these little paper pieces that they can rip up and cut up. But again, options. You can do it. You can use these manipulatives, or you could use any number of paper printables. Questions. So thinking about these activities, what ways might you use virtual manipulatives? Thinking about all of the information I've provided today. What are your thoughts? David, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking I'm hesitant
Tell me.
because of the time that it would take to, well, first of all, I'd have to know how to do it, which I don't
Right.
yet, obviously. But the time it would take to get everybody going with it, the period is pretty much over, that kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, time is always a concern for our students. And I think we have to decide where it makes sense and where is it valuable. If that student's really having difficulty, where might we find a better way to help them? And if a virtual manipulative is where to start, then you can start there with one concept. But I do understand the idea of really focusing on what's in front of you right then and there. So I appreciate you sharing that comment. Students are busy, we're busy, it takes a long time. But if you get a hand of it, you can use these to really put a spotlight on some math concepts. Amy, how
Yeah,
might
if
you
I'm not
use
being-
these?
If I'm not being too greedy, I deal a lot with math anxiety as well as non-math trauma, or sometimes both. And I'm wondering what to do with students that have both fear of computers and fear of math, besides mail them paper manipulatives.
Yes, that's a really good question. So something that you can do on your screen, if you see right now, at the top, or somewhere it should say you are watching Maribel's screen. And next to it, there's an option to click an annotate button. And you'll be able to see that there's like a text tool where students can actually, excuse me, my dog's barking. You can see students could draw right onto the document. So I have my annotate tools on, and I can just write right on the screen or put a stamp. Here I have an arrow that I'm using, and they can write on your screen. This is a really great activity to do with the Jamboard that I showed you. If you go to Jamboard.google, oops, you can see all my drawings still. Hold on. You can see that I have quite a few. Let's take a look at this one, right? Here's temperature and how we might find equivalent temperatures. And a student could use their annotate tools right on Zoom to draw the different things, that they want to draw, or they can put text right here. Right? They can write directly on that. So I would encourage everyone to consider using those annotate tools. That way, you don't have to worry about students who have to who are afraid of the computer. You can teach them one trick by using the annotate tools and let them learn that way. Because at the end of the day, they will need to learn how to navigate digital tools.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, we're coming to the end of our session. What are some final questions, comments, or concerns you might have? Questions, comments, concerns?
Maribel, in terms of time,
Yes.
what would you say is a typical class that you envision these things being used for in terms of
Sure.
what length of time a session is, how many sessions there are per week, how long the class goes, how many weeks, that kind of thing?
Sure. My day job is with the professional development system in Pennsylvania. So I work with every agency across Pennsylvania in some way or another. With that being said, agencies sometimes have classes 2 or 3 times a week. That's in a classroom with a teacher. Sometimes they have classroom aides that work with students. Sometimes it's once a week, sometimes it's twice a week. It really does depend on what the setup is at that agency. As a tutor, I've seen tutoring be structured in such a way that it's 1 hour a week, 2 hours a week, 3 hours a week for up to 3 to 6 months or even longer. It really just depends on your setup and how you are working with your students. In terms of preparation, when I prepare for work with a student, I plan ahead anyway, right? So if I were doing a concept like fractions, I would pull out the Polypad, the Mathagon website, plan around doing an activity there. It would take the exact same amount of time to plan a lesson with just a bunch of problems, but the students are getting both the procedure as well as a conceptual understanding of the topic with those manipulatives. I'd really love to stay in touch with all of you via email. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to talk more about how you're using virtual manipulatives. And if you need any support in any way around using this, I'd be happy to work with you one-on-one, to do a demonstration, or to support you in any way that you'd like. Anything else?
One more,
Yes, Amy.
if I'm not too greedy. Do you find it works better to use virtual manipulatives doing one-to-one tutoring versus trying to do it when teaching a group?
Yes, it's easier to do it one-to-one, but I wouldn't let that steer you away from doing it in a group. As you saw with Jamboard, we were all, oops, let's get back to Jamboard. We were all on the activity together, right? So at any point, any one of us could have added a comment here or done something on the screen. So it's really depends on what you're using and how you're using it. So that's my answer, my long-winded answer for that.
Beautiful.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I want to thank all of you for participating and putting up with all of the new things. Oh, you're from Brooklyn. I'm from Brooklyn too. Hang on, Amy. So I want to share my appreciation for your thoughtful conversation and comments and questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to shoot me an email. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.